One Uptown TV. Yo, enough there, me I represent. Da, 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 da. Bang.
We need to change this so-called democracy that we have, that is, that is fraudulent, that it is not a real democracy. We need community self-government. In the communities, the people need to organize themselves and to be able to come together and tell the government, we need this, we need that, because in the communities, they know directly what is missing, what needs to be done, etc., etc. We need direct democracy, and this will take us towards a people's government system. That is what we need in Jamaica.
Thank you so much, my brother, Lloyd Diagola. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
It's been a pleasure being on your program, and keep up the good work.
You too, my brother. Thanks so much.
All the best.
Political accountability is something that we do not have in Jamaica, and we need more time to kind of build this out, to have a conversation on that. Lots of discussions on that, but people like Lloyd and others have been raising in the space and in the spaces in which they operate, the need for impeachment of politicians, the need for accountability, transparency, the need for the ability to recall politicians who are not, who are underperforming. This is one of the country's most pressing challenges that we face, because we look at politicians who is wash, rinse, and repeat. Wash, rinse, and repeat. So politicians might be engaged in all kinds of scandals over time. And what do we find? We find that 5 years or 3 years pass, and they are recalled to Parliament and reinstated without any kind of conclusion or resolution to the corruption or the scandals that surrounded them. This is crazy. Crazy. We talk about democracy, but we're really just democracy on paper. Just on paper. No consequences for corruption, for underperformance, for neglect of duties. None whatsoever. Are we okay with this? Scandals are fading out without any kind of resolution. So if we include, and I agree with impeachment, I agree with recall, and we had a conversation this morning with Brother Ajamo about proportional representation, more inclusion of we the people in the system of governance and representation. So no wonder we see this great public disillusionment. No wonder we see the low voter turnout. And we can call it apathy, we can call it whatever we will. But we really do have a problem. And we can start with strengthening accountability. Because, and this is what both parties need to know, this is the only way you rebuild trust, or this is how you begin to rebuild trust, with accountability. The political culture in Jamaica is off the chain. We've seen nothing like it. It hogs up corruption. It is in bed with scandals. It is in decay. It stinks to high heaven or holy hell, however you want to put it. This is where we find ourselves as a nation, rotting and enjoying the stench and reveling in the stench. So we need a culture rooted in transparency, accountability, and responsibility. I see, the excitement around the naming of ministers and senators and all of that. But I guarantee you, because they're going into a place of rot and decay, the synagogue of Satan, they're not going to be able to change anything but themselves. And we've witnessed over time how they manage to change themselves regardless of what they go in with. I think it's time for me to go back to Emancipation Park. IRIE FM now brings you a live link from The running events JA and Guardian Life Limited Blue Run 5K happening at Emancipation Park. We now join Roger Hasfall and the outside broadcast team on location. They're 10 minutes away from the cash pot draw. I'm saying that for Roger. Hey, Raj.
Yeah, man. Good reference. Yeah, man. All right. Thank you very much. Yes, so it's a beautiful morning here at Emancipation Park. And as we speak, most of the persons are warming down now. You know, it's also a very hot time in Jamaica, despite the heavy showers that we would have had over the past 2 days in the corporate area, especially on Friday. But it's still quite hot here, and most persons are cooling down. All the stakeholders are busily engaged in terms of, you know, providing information. As you are aware, this is the 5K Blue Run this morning here taking place. So locate that person. I don't know where he is.
It sounds like it's very active on the ground, Roger.
Yes, it sounds so. But nonetheless, Cabo, as we said, I mean, all the stakeholders, you know, there has been a lot of public service in terms of information. The rate is still high, and we need to bring it down. So once you're 40 and over, you need to get tested. That's all the information. That's the most critical information that is coming out of Prostate Cancer Awareness Month. Get tested once you're 40. Try to get tested every year, because early detection is the best. Once you are detected early, then you have a good chance of living a full life. And once you have detected it quite early, I don't think we'll get that person. Carl, what's he saying? All right. All right. Carl, you need to have him on your phone, man. You need to have him on your phone. Yeah, but nonetheless, as we said, prostate cancer is one of the major killers of Black Caribbean men. Jamaica is among the highest rates in the world. And is this a gentleman? Is this a gentleman? You see? This is a gentleman coming here. We have a...
You're very late, sir.
All right, hold on. Just give him this mic here.
No, I'm not Mr. Danny.
Morning, sir. Morning.
Mr. Danny, you're not Mr. Danny.
No. All right, the wrong person, Cabo, wrong person. So I gather that the person has chickened out on us. I don't know why, but he was duly informed, and he's here on the ground actually, but I'm not certain why he's not coming. But that's the situation here at Emancipation Park. We are wrapping up because, you know, we don't have much time. But once again, just to remind you that this morning was a wonderful morning here at Emancipation Park. We spoke with Samantha Robotham, Director of Health Promotion and Public Relations at the National Health Fund, and she spoke to us about the NHS partnership with the Blue Run this morning, and how persons can sign up for the NHS benefits. You can still come on down. That's a very critical information as well we are giving to you in Radioland. If you're on or about or nearby Emancipation Park, you can come on down and sign up for your NHS card and benefits and so on. We also spoke with the Vice President of Life, Health and Pension at Guardian Life, speaking to us about why they have partnered this event and the initiatives that they would have had in the fight against prostate cancer. So that's about it, you know, Cabo.
All right.
Has been a wonderful morning here at Emancipation Park, and of course we will have more information as you know the time goes by.
You'll be there all day?
Not necessarily, but I'll be here for a while.
Okay, all right. Thank you so much, Roger. That was a live link from Running Events JA and Guardian Life Limited Blue Run 5K. That's happening at Emancipation Park. You just heard that. Wow. As you heard Roger saying, prostate cancer, Jamaica still remains the country with the highest incidence of prostate cancer. That has been the reality for a very, very long time. So if you haven't checked, had your PSA check, go get your prostate cancer, your prostate check. Get your prostate check, not your prostate cancer check, but a prostate check. The thing about prostate cancer is that it's a very, very slow growing cancer. And because it is so slow in growing, it is, once detected, it can be treated. It can also be cured, but it has to be detected early. And this is why they tell you that once you get to the age of 40, and now they're saying even 35, but once if you're comfortable with 35, go and talk to your doctor. But once you get to the age of 40 and over, begin to do your prostate cancer check or your prostate check, because that can prevent prostate cancer, which is a very slow growing cancer. So that once it's recognized that something is happening there, there's some changes there, let us deal with it immediately. And it can be totally cured. That is the bottom line. It can be cured. The doctors will tell you that once it's detected early, it can be cured. So go and get your prostate check. If you're over top draw dollars, pick 2, pick 3, pick 4, hot pick and cash pot early bird draws are coming up next inside of the program. Hey, we're seeing where, and we mentioned it before, Keir Starmer is expected to announce the UK's recognition of a Palestinian state. In a statement today, the Prime Minister, this is supposed to happen today. It hasn't happened yet. The Prime Minister said in July the UK would shift its position unless Israel met several conditions, including agreeing to a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip and committing to a long-term peace process leading to a Palestinian state coexisting alongside Israel. It seemed as all symbolism, because they're saying Hamas will have no part of it, and there are a whole lot of conditions to this. I'm not even quite sure what the UK is doing. We saw Turkey cutting diplomatic relations with Israel. We hear now that Turkey is on alert because there are questions being raised now as to, after Qatar, who else is the rogue state, the demon Netanyahu about to attack. So there's a whole lot happening in that region, not just with Israel, Palestine, Turkey, and Pakistan and Saudi Arabia. We see the summit coming out of Qatar. Oh, it's 8:30. Let me stand by for the Supreme Ventures draw. Yeah, we're standing by for that time on IRFM. It's 8:30. But there's a whole lot happening there. And so we're paying attention to that. Not a lot of time to talk about it today, but as you know, we're always watching what's happening geopolitically, because we are very aware that we're already in World War III. I have short memories, and this whole thing happened because something else happened. One of the things that we are not able to do as a people generally, and as journalists in particular, is to put things in their historical perspective. Because this whole conversation around freedom of speech, and I know it's what I am about to say regarding freedom of speech and what's happening in the US and the pulling of Jimmy Kimmel and ABC and Disney and Charlie Kirk and all of them, it's unpopular opinion, especially if you're focusing and you've been listening and watching liberal media, the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the NBCs and the BBCs and all of those. Liberal media. Because this is the same liberal media who ensured that those of us who wanted to exercise our free speech, our right to free speech during the COVID pandemic, that a lot of us were fired. A lot of my colleagues around the world, I'm talking, lost their jobs. A lot of journalists lost their jobs because they spoke out against a system that was being implemented to control and to move us into a whole new world order of control. So remember that what is happening now, and I'm standing by for my next guest, by the way, because we have a guest coming up shortly, but at 9 o'clock. But what is happening now in the United States, and not just in the US, but we see this unfolding also in the UK and other parts of Europe, that we are having a lot of conversation about free speech, and people are angry about how their free speech is being compromised and taken away, and how Donald Trump is doing this, and the Republicans are doing that, and the MAGA doing this. But they didn't start it. They didn't start it. And what is happening now is made possible because of what happened during COVID. And this for me is simple. Remember, we raised the question that how are you going to pull this back? When you muzzled journalists during the pandemic, when the world was told to silence your voice, do not speak up against a vaccine, do not ask questions of Pfizer and AstraZeneca, do not ask any questions. We say so and it goes so. We were told to follow the science, and when we follow the science and ask questions, people were thrown out of buses here in Jamaica as a result of what the media was doing. People were spitting up on people here in Jamaica and other places. People were, even your own family members, were coming under all kinds of pressures because the media told you that this was so. And for those of us who were speaking up against it, when the science kept shifting its guidance, those of us who asked questions, we found ourselves silenced. Our posts were deleted. We were blocked from Facebook, YouTube. I was blocked from Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram. Our posts were deleted. A lot of us, our reputations were dragged through the mud, under fire. We were called all kind of conspiracy theorists. And a lot of journalists lost their jobs on radio, on television, across the world. A lot of doctors lost their jobs. We were told to shut up for 2.5 years straight, that we had no right to speak. This was led by the Democrats in the United States. When Joe Biden took over, it got worse. The CNNs and the MSNBCs and the NBC controlled by the pharmaceutical companies, Big Pharma, led a campaign to silence dissenting voices and the voices of journalists. And because they did that and got away with it, it created an environment that made it possible for any other journalist, any other place, in any other space, whether you're a late night talk show host, journalist, or just an activist. It laid the groundwork and made it possible for the very same environment that you created and legislated, because you made it a crime. You made talk against the murdering of millions of people through an unsafe vaccine, which now all of the research, just last 2 weeks, a research came out from them, from the very highest levels, saying the vaccines really didn't work. Nobody's reporting on that. Pfizer was mandated by the court to release all its documents relating to the testing of the vaccine. Those documents are available online. But even today in Jamaica, neither the Ministry of Health, academia, or media, with the exception of this program alone, nobody has touched the Pfizer documents, where Pfizer itself confessed in those documents, and it's not really a confession, it's just the research papers that they had to release, where Pfizer itself, let me take a quick break. Any university, academia, or anyone, civil society, nobody has touched them. I don't even know if they've read them. Where it shows that cardiac arrest, heart attacks, blood clots, that people died, more people died from heart attacks and blood clots, and it showed up in those documents for the testing of the vaccine. But we paid no attention to that. We didn't want to hear. Here in Jamaica, we were muzzled. We were muzzled. IRFM got scared because in this program, we were challenging the veracity of the vaccine and of the COVID lockdown. So here we are now, where we came through that under the Democratic government, the Democrats in the United States, because they were the ones who laid the law down and sent it to one World Health Global Order. They laid down that law and sent it to everyone else in the world. Every country had to abide by this law of silencing. They made it hate speech for us to question what they were doing. They criminalized journalists who were questioning. We were shut up, we were shut out. Mark Zuckerberg went before Congress and testified that he was pressured by the Biden administration to silence us. And that's why we were blocked from Facebook and blocked from Instagram and blocked from YouTube. And now you have the audacity, CNN and all of them have the audacity to be talking about Jimmy Kimmel and free speech and Charlie Kirk. I say that it would not have happened. This could not have happened if you didn't back the process that opened the door to discrimination and to the silencing of journalists. The American liberal media, the European liberal media, and all media, because this is one thing that most of them agreed on, the liberal and conservative media, they agreed because they were sponsored and are sponsored by the pharmaceutical companies. So what's happening now was bound to happen because it is the very same thing that happened during COVID to those who spoke out against what the pharmaceutical companies and the government were doing. So we had Facebook, all the platforms joined forces, all of them. Facebook, Google, Twitter. Remember they signed a pledge, do you recall that they signed a pledge that they said would combat misinformation? I'm quoting. And suddenly, all of these global tech companies, they became the arbiters of truth. And we were silenced because our voices were called voices of misinformation and disinformation. You opened the door for this. So stop with this. Stop it. We had government flagging channels in the United States, the CDC and the WHO. They start sending lists of flagged posts to platforms. This is what is happening now. And in Britain, they had a thing called Rapid Response Unit, which they created to monitor what they called online incidents. The very same Rapid Response Unit was adopted in the US. And if you noted what happened after the Jimmy Kimmel show, one of the first tweets came from the Rapid Response Unit Twitter account. This is the very same thing they used to silence our voices during COVID. We had the mainstream outlets. They were repeating all the health official guidelines, while our voices were dismissed and even punished. So ask yourselves, what happened in COVID? What happened during the lockdown, the pandemic? Wasn't it a matter that they were maintaining control? They were controlling the narrative, controlling the story, controlling you, controlling the spaces. Dissenting scientists were vilified in the media, were hounded out of their jobs. Doctors were hounded out of their jobs. They couldn't publish. Nobody would take their journal articles. Ordinary citizens were punished for questioning policy. And the message then was very, very clear, as it is now, because you put this in place. This is your doing. The right to speak freely was no longer unconditional. We were very clear of that during the pandemic under the Biden regime. You opened the door to this, so stop it. Stop it. Anything that's happening now regarding free speech, whether it's in the UK or it is in the United States, all of this can be traced right back to the COVID pandemic and what you put in place. Remember the Hunter Biden laptop story? That story came out around 2020, October 2020. Twitter and Facebook blocked that circulation. They said it was foreign disinformation. But in reality, this was the first major political test of a censorship machine that was built for COVID. And this is where we are. We spoke about the DRMA on the island here in Jamaica. We told you that because so many of you signed on to the DRMA, you won't be able to pull it back. That once you have signed on, everybody who signed on to this, politicians, civil society, academia, Christians, everyone who signed on to these, have already signed away your freedom. Go back and listen to the programs you were doing. We told you were signing away your freedoms. You were signing away your right to free speech. The Disinformation Governance Board in the United States. This was an official inside Homeland Security. It was formed to coordinate counter disinformation. This is how far they're willing to go. So what began as a fight against a virus, according to them, the COVID virus, it became a weapon in political warfare. This machinery exists. It exists. The world signed on to it during COVID, during the pandemic. It exists. What we're seeing now is that politicians and officials are just redirecting it against stories, against journalists, against debates, against movements that threaten them. In the UK, we have the UK Online Safety Act. Remember that? This came out of the pandemic. This climate of fear. And what that law is doing now in the UK is that it gives Ofcom the power to order platforms to remove content that it deems unlawful or harmful. Just harmful, not unlawful, harmful. Then we have the EU Digital Services Act. And they talk about systems risk, including misinformation. They determine what is misinformation. Remember, we were asking that question during COVID. What is misinformation? What is disinformation? A man spoke out against a prime minister, hide under him, bed them, find him and imprison him, charge him. That happened here on the island in Jamaica, under the DRMA. That door is already opened. All of that is in place. They do it once, they'll do it again. And we had in Germany the NetzDG legacy. That's another platform. This is before the United Nations General Assembly, which is going to be tomorrow, I think, announcing, how convenient, that they are recognizing Palestine. Very interesting. It's all smoke and mirrors. There's nothing to it, really. Because the UN has come out and talk about the genocide, for once in Palestine, that Israel is doing against Palestine. Now we have these countries, just before they go to the UN, talking about their recognizing Palestine. Well, let's see. Darius Figuera, criminologist, is scheduled to join me on the phone lines right now. Let me know what's happening. You might have heard that the U.S. has named 5 Caribbean countries among major, what it calls, drug transit nations. It has officially designated the Bahamas, Belize, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Jamaica as major drug transit or major illicit drug producing countries for fiscal year 2026. Well, we've been talking about this for some time with Dr. Figuera in this space, Darius Figuera. We've been looking at transnational organized crime in the Caribbean, and we've been doing this for a few months well. This designation is part of a broader list of 23 countries that the U.S. identifies as playing significant roles in the production or transit of illegal drugs, according to them. So these include several countries in Latin America, Asia, and Africa. The U.S. emphasizes that being on the list does not necessarily reflect a country's counter-drug efforts or levels of cooperation with the U.S. authorities. And I think this is where we have to stop for a minute to say, what are those levels of cooperation with the U.S. authorities? And how do these levels of cooperation reflect on the armada that is in the Caribbean waters? The the warships, the nuclear-powered submarines, the F-35s, the bombing of boats in Caribbean waters, the killing of fishermen in Caribbean waters, and so on. How are these countries cooperating with the U.S. on this? Well, Trinidad and Guyana, they haven't really hidden their thoughts on this. The Prime Minister of Trinidad, Bisesa, she says, kill them, and kill them all violently. Guyana says, and she goes on to say, we will give you a base to bomb them from if you need to do that. And Guyana is not much different, if you ask me. But Guyana, I think, has another reason for doing what they are doing, and we'll get to that in a little while. But I do think I have online Darius Figuera. Brother Figuera has joined me online. Greetings, Brother Figuera. Thank you so much for joining us inside of the Africa Forum once more.
Greetings, my sister. My pleasure to be with you.
All right. Well, I was just going through the latest news coming out of the United States State Department about the countries that the U.S. have said as having failed demonstrably to make substantial efforts in countering drugs: Afghanistan, Bolivia, Burma, Colombia, and Venezuela, but also the countries that it has named among major drug transit nations, such as the Bahamas, Belize, Dominican Republic, Haiti, and Jamaica. Your immediate response to this latest information coming out of the United States?
Well, this is an annual list that we have grown accustomed to. Mm-hmm. But under Trump 2.0, we are now faced with an administration who has indicated its willingness now to label those countries havens for narco-terrorists. Mm-hmm. And to so act militarily against them. So there are countries named in CARICOM that I don't see how they can ever be major trafficking points in the Caribbean. The only tier 1 trafficking country named in that list you read is the Dominican Republic.
Mm-hmm. And yet we have the
Dominican Republic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is the closest ally of the USA in the Caribbean island chain. So there is always has been a correlation between acute drug trafficking and regimes who are servile to the US of A, who does nothing to attack the illicit drug trade. Whereas other territories that you name, where you have identified them as enemies, you have shown your willingness to use the war on drugs to cover your geopolitical assaults on these said enemies. So the best example of that in the Western Hemisphere today is Ecuador. Ecuador is single-handedly the largest single export point for kilo bricks in the world today to Europe via containerized cargo and to the United States of America via containerized cargo, but its regime is very servile. And the US of A continues to pamper that regime.
Mm-hmm.
But you are talking about Jamaica being a dangerous transit point. For what? Are you talking about ganja production as being a dangerous drug? Because certainly Jamaica is no tier 1 player in cocaine and synthetic drugs going to the United States and to Europe.
And as you have been underscoring, and I'm very happy that we were doing months of discussions on this very thing, talking about the change in methodology and players and where they were and who they were and where the greatest threats were. And so that our listeners already have that foundation to better understand what is unfolding here. And you're saying there is the geopolitics of it all is what we need to pay attention to. But let me also ask you this, Brother Figuera. In the release, the U.S. says that what is not included in the release itself is the extent to which these countries are cooperating with U.S. authorities. What do you take that to mean?
Well, what they have always insisted in these annual reports is that they look at the level of cooperation. So that means they look at the extent to which you have the DEA operationally present in your country. They also look at the way in which you toe the line. The great lesson of the Caribbean island chain is that the Dominican Republic has everything there. They toe the line. But whilst they have everything there, the Dominican Republic, by the admittance of American Homeland Security, is now a manufacturing base for fentanyl derivatives. And Belize and Jamaica and Venezuela and all those countries that you called are not. So while they are compliant and servile, the illicit trades evolve in those countries non-stop. The Dominican Republic, the entire social order is endemically corrupt because of the illicit trades. But that is business as usual. Mm-hmm. Governance in the Dominican Republic is a feed and trough by which multimillionaires enter politics to feed even further. So when you read the oversight, the little and underfunding reports of the oversight institutions that exist in the Dominican Republic, and you look at the quantum of corruption that is endemic to that social order, the Dominican Republic is a classic drug trafficking state.
What we note, Brother Figuera, is that Jamaica, in recent times, and we've had this conversation with you before on air, has been engaging in a kind of a diplomatic relation with the Dominican Republic that warrants investigation. In that we see a coddling and a hugging up, if you will, and a serious intensification of relations between Jamaica and the Dominican Republic. It cannot go unnoticed. What do you get from this? Yes.
The great danger in embracing the Dominican Republic is that you embrace them, and from the time you open your doors, the front businessmen who are working for the drug traffickers and who are in themselves drug traffickers move into your country. Because it is an endless procession, a drive to expand, to wash, to clean, and to add more capacity to your operations.
Could the U.S. be saying, the U.S. State Department be saying, we see you and we know what you're doing, because obviously they're all in one bed. Hence Jamaica on the list.
Yes. So what is happening is that the list is like massa, indicating to you who are good and who are bad, and who will get benefits from massa and who will get whipped from massa driver. So presently we have the military contingent out in the waters, and that's a whipping board. That's the driver come to deliver the whipping.
And not just out in the waters, but they're bombing boats, and they have bombed 2 boats now, fishermen, and they have gone on to a bigger fishing vessel. With the naming, from your perspective, with the naming of Jamaica and these other Caribbean countries, Belize and so on, with the naming of these countries as Tier 1 drug trafficking, transnational, criminal organized crime, countries, what does this mean in relation to what we see happening in the waters? How are these 2 things connected, if any, from your perspective?
Well, those names are then singled out. I just don't know what Belize is doing there. Because the entire discourse of this war on drugs from America is now so discordantly out there from the reality on the ground that it is actually depraved. The cocaine trade has collapsed into America. The American cocaine market has collapsed. So I don't know how Belize could be a premium transit point going to Mexico and then to America when the cocaine trade has collapsed.
So is there a bigger thing at play? Yeah, go ahead. What are you saying?
Yeah, what I see at play is that you are singling out countries to change the nature of the politics of CARICOM. So you have Trinidad and Tobago and Guyana that is already marching. You have a group of Eastern Caribbean countries who are refusing to march because remember their economies and how their economies are structured. And military engagement out there is bad for their business. And now you are looking to add to that phalanx. So at any minute now you're going to pull on the reins of Belize and Jamaica. And remember, America had designated Suriname ports of Suriname, as a terrorist threat to American security because the courts of Suriname are not secure in their eyes. That's another shot across the bow of CARICOM. Because remember, Suriname has very close ties with China.
Hold the thought from we'll pick up from there. Let me take a break. Caribbean countries, 5 Caribbean countries as being involved in transnational organized crime, drug trafficking, and so on, tier 1, literally, as it continues to float an armada, nuclear-powered armada, in the South Caribbean seas and is bombing fishing boats. Brother Figueroa, just as we were going into the break, you talked about Suriname and Suriname's relationship with China. And I want you to pick up from there before we go to the next point, because on the front page of the Saturday Gleaner, that was yesterday, the headline reads, China-trained doctors in limbo. So Jamaican medical professionals who are trained in China have come home and they are unable to secure internships at local hospitals. And I'm wondering if this is part of Jamaica cooperating with the United States because they're not able to get internship in any of the government hospitals. But then you referenced Suriname, so let's go there.
Well, America's engagement in China will go to the extent where they will want to make an example of those said doctors who came back home to Jamaica. Yes. That is how petty it is.
Yes.
What is happening with Suriname is that what we have to note, Suriname has an ongoing border dispute with Ghana since the 1960s over Ghana's seizure of the Tigray territory.
Yes.
And Ghana has been playing hardball with Suriname over going to mediation and negotiation to settle this once and for all. But Ghana plays victim over the issue of Essequibo. But it is playing recalcitrant with Suriname over the Tigray border dispute.
Mm-hmm.
And remember, the Tigray border dispute impacts the maritime boundary and the whole grab for oil.
Yes.
So, what is happening now, you are coming now to Suriname and telling Suriname you want a bridge built from Suriname into Guyana over the Quarantine River, which is the demarcating boundary line, the river.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you're not speaking at all about settling that dispute once and for all.
Mm-hmm.
But Suriname has a new government now. So you're playing victim with Venezuela on the Essequibo, but you're playing aggressor with Suriname.
Mm-hmm.
And in both sides of your border, you have the backing of the United States. You're literally throwing your weight around.
Yes, yes.
So what we saw when the previous government was ruling is that the attempts to make a pan-Indian alliance between Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago and Suriname. And that is why Modi went into Suriname and visited Suriname.
Mm-hmm.
When that government was dominated by the VHS, which is dominated by the Indian vote.
Yes.
And he visited Trinidad and Tobago when the UNC came into power.
Mm-hmm.
Not before. So he visited Ghana, he visited Suriname, he visited Ghana when PPP was ruling, he visited Suriname when VHS was dominating, and then he came to Trinidad when the UNC came in, making it clear, sending the message. So what is happening now, the entire game in the Southern Caribbean with the military entourage is premised on picking a proxy war with Venezuela because of Venezuela's closeness to China. That's all it is a proxy war. But what my brothers and sisters in Jamaica must understand, last week, 10 spanking brand new Chinese J-10 fighters flew into Caracas with the entire necessary infrastructure, avionics and supplies, parts, etc., to ensure that those brand new J-10 fighters are airworthy and operational. And then on Friday of the same week, Trump speaks to Xi Jinping on the phone. Because for the entire week before, he was speaking in public about needing to speak to Xi Jinping.
Right. We saw him saying that in the UK on his UK trip. I'm going to speak with Xi Jinping tomorrow morning. That was on Thursday. He said that. So, and what do you think? Why do you think this is this a big coward situation? I mean, why did he? Is this fair on Trump's part? Why do you think that he was so publicly telegraphing that he was going to speak with Xi Jinping the other morning? Normally, you don't.
Because,
yes.
Yeah, the word has come out from China that Xi Jinping drew the red line in the sand for Trump over Venezuela.
Yes, go ahead.
And the sending in of the 10 brand new J-10 fighters was just to indicate to the world that China does not desert her allies in their time of need. We don't know what else is there on the ground, like hypersonic missiles. Because China has all that weaponry, which they displayed publicly for the 80th anniversary of their victory over Japanese aggression.
I want to throw something in, because Jamaica's former commissioner of police is currently Jamaica's ambassador to the United States, so which means that he must be biologist Dr. Darius Figueroa, and an expert on transnational organized crime. He's written extensively about this. We're looking at the United States Armada that's still part of the within the Caribbean waters. The United States also naming 4 Caribbean countries as being involved in drug trafficking, and Tier 1, literally, including Belize, Dominican Republic. We're hearing from Dr. Figueroa about, from his own research and his own perspective on and analysis of the situation, what this means in the wider geopolitical scope. So, Dr. Figueroa, you mentioned just now that the game is pushing back. You also mentioned earlier that the Eastern Caribbean countries, for the most part, have raised their voices against this. We're yet to see what, if any, consequences there'll be for these Eastern Caribbean countries who have so bravely stood up against this armada and imperial power, dying imperial power that's in the Caribbean waters. But when you say the game is pushing back, you're talking about the cartels, are you? Yes.
And the power that they exert is the fact that you have throughout the region, you have oligarchs who are in the game, and you have political parties who willingly take money from the game in order to fund their election campaigns.
Wow.
So that is the leverage they have. And they will remind you that in your hour of need, you took their money, you are now in government, and what are you doing for me? That's the game.
Yes. And how do you see this playing out in terms of the pushback?
Well, what is happening, you see, in the pushback is always multi-tiered.
Yes.
The significant visual is where you have switched off your engines, you are dead in the water. That means under international law of the sea, that means under the practices that were applied before. You are not running away. You are not offering no resistance. You are supposed to then send your vessel, board, seize, arrest, and then after you remove me from the boat, you could afford to sink it and destroy it with a load.
Mm-hmm.
But then your Secretary of State goes to the world and says that does not work.
Right.
What you have to do is kill the people on the boat.
Right.
But the people on the boat are just ordinary workers.
And the Prime Minister of Trinidad says the same thing. Kill them all. Kill them violently.
Mm-hmm. So all you are doing when you kill them on the boat is that you are not impacting the trade, because what we in the Caribbean must understand is that there is nothing going through that Caribbean Sea to America. What they must do is check all the containerized cargo that is leaving Ecuador.
Ecuador. I notice, Dr. Figueroa, that there's also on the other list, because there's a wider list, we're focusing on the Caribbean, but that Ecuador seems to be on that list. Colombia is on that list. But what's interesting about that, this is on the both sides of obviously the Panama Canal, because that whole thing. So it seems the geopolitics of it all is very interesting. So that if you park on that side, and if Ecuador is already in your pocket and is your ally, then what you have is a direct threat, a surrounding, if you will, of China in the Caribbean.
Yes, because there's a major effort on the Panama Canal to literally block Chinese ships from the canal.
So where does
because
Yes, go ahead.
You have reoccupied your military base in the canal. So what is happening now, this whole thing is over China. Now, remember, you don't like petrol, so you have decertified Colombia's efforts to handle their drug trade. So for the first time in the history of Colombia, in your war on drugs, Colombia has a president that is not servile to you, and you have now decertified Colombia. And by decertifying Colombia, Colombia is now open to sanctions from you. Colombia can be assaulted in the same way as the other countries.
A lot of analysts have compared this to so many other things: Grenada, Haiti, Panama before, and so on. I don't know. This seems different. What's your thinking?
Yes, it is an entirely different play. Because one position that has emerged is a desperation concerning the upcoming midterm elections that will become due next year.
Mm-hmm.
If the Republican Party loses control of the Congress, then the Democrats will use that opportunity to assault Trump relentlessly. For the remainder of his term in office, he will be a lame duck president. And already we see that the Democrats, he has literally raised the Democratic Party from the dead with the willy-nilly lunacy of his domestic policies, especially what is happening with the tariffs, and how it has what is happening with all the sweeps and picking up all the so-called quote-unquote illegal migrants.
Yeah.
So you are literally dismantling the neoliberal economy in America. And you have now earned the ire of the oligarchs. So that means there's already talk in America that you have oligarchic money lining up with political action committees, that whenever Rubio and his gang of three come up for re-election, if any of them come up for re-election next year, you're going to get a flood of oligarchy money into those seats they have to contest to get rid of them.
We saw something unfolding in the UK with Trump's visit to the UK. And when you look at the room, because granted the camera is pointed at Trump, but when you look at the room with Larry Fink and Cook and Murdoch and all of them, that gives a pretty good picture. And then he is there, of course, with all of the tech bros, and we see the technocracy unfolding in front of our eyes. In terms of what they did in the United Kingdom, so this really, as you talk about geopolitical implications and the oligarchs and where the money is coming from and all of that, this is happening in many places all at once. So that what is happening in the Caribbean is not disconnected or unconnected to what is happening in the Baltics and in Poland and in the South China Seas and the Ukraine and Russia and Europe, the rest of Europe and so on. This is all connected, isn't it?
We are part now of a world play of a North Atlantic that is in collapse. Massa Day is now done. They had their century, and it is now over. So what is happening now, the oligarchs of America, who are oligarchs because of the neoliberal economy of America, people like Dallo, are now singing the praises of China. Because China is the only country in the world that gives them the stability to keep multiplying their money. Because China is now the locomotive of the world's economy. So what is happening now is that the yuan is now being rapidly internationalized, and debt is now being issued in yuan because people want money wants a safe haven from the US dollar. So to global South countries, especially our African sisters and brothers, have embraced China with both arms. Apparently, it is only the diaspora in the Caribbean who don't understand, and they must learn from our mother continent and follow suit and head now to China. Because the Africans have now learned to go and take debt in yuan, to utilize all the opportunities China is giving them to export duty-free to them in that market, and most of all, to send their people to China to be trained to then go back home and multiply the wealth.
Problem is that when they come back, it's a conversation that must continue, Dr. Figueroa. I really want to. I'm going to give you a minute just to say a final word, because we're totally out of time. But I'm going to invite you back and we look at this again as this unfolds, as fluid as it is.
Yes. So the lesson that both of us we are putting out today is that, my sister, this is a world geopolitical play. There's nothing to do only with the Caribbean and Venezuela.
Exactly.
We are watching an empire collapse.
Right in front of our eyes.
Yes.
And with it, CARICOM is collapsing also. Like the League of Nations. Yeah.
Yes. So the servile nations are going down with the ship.
Wow. Thank you so much, my brother, Dr. Darius Figueroa. Thank you so much, as always.
Thank you.
Wow, we're paying close attention to what is unfolding here. Go back and look. 5 Caribbean countries, including Jamaica, Belize, Dominican Republic, identified by the United States as transnational organized drug trafficking tier 1 countries. At the same time that there's the Armada, it's laid out in the Caribbean. And if you look, take out your maps, do that. I'll take a break while I take out your maps. Google Ecuador and Venezuela on the map, and you'll see that they're on different sides of or do Ecuador and Jamaica. And you see they're on different sides of the Panama Canal. So this is not a fluke. What's happening is a war with China in the Caribbean seas.
She further expanded my appreciation. That is where I learned about the musicals, My Fair Lady and Rodgers and Hammerstein and that kind of thing. So I had different appreciation. Then I got involved in a roots rock band, right?
At what? At school? In school?
Yeah, man, in school.
Okay.
I played the percussion.
Yes, I know percussion is extraordinary. Kind of yeah.
Right. So that expanded my range and appreciation of Jamaican music. So it was why that at home in the nights I used to kind of hide the radio under the bed because my mother believes that.
Zekel, what a wage.
my mother believed it would run up our electricity bill.
Oh,
that kind of thing. So I would listen to WGBS, which was a radio station. Yeah, man, a radio station out of, was it Florida? It was somewhere though. You could pick it up in the nights on the AM band, and they used to play some really, really good music. Okay. And I guess that started my appreciation for R&B. And then, I used to use my money now, my little lunch money now, and started to buy my own records now. After my father's passing, I started to use my lunch money to buy records, and then I started to.
So you buy reggae dance, reggae. Well,
it was mostly R&B. It was mostly R&B.
Okay.
I keep telling people that when I did my audition for Irie, it was so early in the day that Irie didn't know that they were going to play all reggae. My audition tape didn't have one reggae song on it. That was how early in the day it was. So
Elvis Presley. In my house.
Conway Twitty.
Conway. Oh, so. But listen.
I tell you.
I'm going to call one where you don't know. Three Dog Night.
Come on now.
Okay. Three Dog Night. Dog Night albums.
Rock, Three Dog Night. Yeah,
Three Dog Night album. We grew up in. As a matter of fact, we used to use the Three Dog Night album jacket, the jacket, the sleeve, right? To put in the project and so on.
Yeah, you know Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Band.
No. But with Elvis.
That was an album by the Beatles.
Oh no, the Beatles weren't there. I don't know why, but they weren't there. But definitely Elvis, and Elvis gospel songs though. Can't remember him as a.
No, Elvis was very deep into gospel.
Right. Yeah. And so on and so forth. So that I was telling somebody the other day that when Peter Tosh died, this is how disconnected we were from reggae and Jamaican music when we were growing up. That in our house and in our community, all the way about say Free I Dead. And somebody pass or go up the road and them say, how Free I Dead? But we take it hard because Free I Dead. And then somebody said, and him alone, somebody else died. And them ask, and them say, a little Marga Rasta guy, man, him sing. That's how we know that Peter Tosh. And somebody say name Peter. Oh, it's a Peter. But we just dismiss it like, who's Peter? That is, honest to goodness, that is what happened in my house.
I remember exactly where I was the Friday night it happened. I was out at a after work party in Kingston. At that time I worked in Kingston. And when the news came, almost everything in the club came to a standstill, and everybody was out chatting and talking about it. Yeah, man, it was quite something. Yeah, man,
quite something.
The whole thing, the city, the buzzing city, just literally came to a dead zone. Really.
Yeah, I keep apologizing to Peter that I didn't know. I just didn't know. Yeah. But yeah,
and the anniversary of his passing was just a few days ago. On the 11th of September. He's a 9/11.
Yes, he's 9/11.
Tragedy too.
That's true, yes. That is true. So with Foundation mix up. And when I came to RFM, Big A taught me how to play music. But it's interesting, Big A, because when I was at Radio Northeast, it was Bob Clark who show me which music for play. But it's interesting the music him show me for play. It's like Marty Robbins.
But at that
Big
time,
iron on his hip.
Yeah, but remember, it was
80s.
Right, but that wasn't a reggae format.
It wasn't a reggae format. It was a youth program.
Mm-hmm.
But we're playing Marty Robbins.
Well, big iron on his hip.
Big iron on his hip. So, but I really was totally out of the music thing, and thank you for the lessons.
Oh, my pleasure. I'd really love to do it all over again.
Yeah, exactly. And do you know who else taught me to? Basil Walters.
Basil know music, you know?
Because Basil used to come and sit with me on a Sunday morning.
No, Basil used to be here as a regular. He used to.
Yes.
In fact, at one point, he used to assist when Bob was in hospital. Clyde Mackenzie and himself used to play the oldest program.
Right,
so he came in right after me,
Yeah. So that's quite something. And I remember now when Mr. Young said me go buy music now. The first place I went to buy music, that is for Running African, was the music shop that was at halfway tree, right where I FM is just Eastwood Park Road. You know the music. You know who did own a music shop?
I can't remember. No.
It's a trick question, though. You know, it's a trick question.
No.
It's a trick question.
That music shop.
That also sold books and so on.
Oh, oh, that music shop.
That music shop. Mutabaru come on in, sir. Because I went in there and it kind of dark. Because I Muta never start working it. Kind of dark, just have the right kind of light. Like it's like when you walk into one of them upscale, uptown places that sell incense and all kinds of, upscale things. In Egypt, it's like you go, the bazaar, and Muta was sitting on like a piece of tree trunk, and all kinds of stuff on the floor, and the carpet black, and the incense high, and
yeah.
it was really nice, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so I got the music, and him tell me more for playing. So Siwanir, Safi Abdullah. You remember Safi Abdullah? I used to play Safi Abdullah all the time. What was it again? Africa is burning, and the black man here is doing the freak. That was Muta. Yeah. Anyway, so congratulations to Shelly Ann. She did well.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Your mic still on, although you're over the side there.
No, absolutely. I'm proud of the team as a whole. And Shelly Ann going out in a blaze of glory.
True. She deserves it.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Yeah, man. I got goose pimples when I saw the audience with the placards.
Oh, I didn't see that.
This morning getting up, I said, well done, Shelly Ann, kind of thing. Yeah, it was nice.
Congrats, Shelly Ann. I mean, you played well, my sister. You ran well. You did well. We're proud of you. I mean, couldn't be no better. She did well. She represented herself, represented Jamaica, represented our family, represented our community. She represented well.
Yeah, man.
And still have so much more to do, I am sure. So, good work all around to the team. How many will come away with now? How many medals?
10? Yeah, I think, somewhere there.
Somewhere there.
Could probably 11, but I think I'm pretty sure it's 10. Because we also got a silver earlier on in the morning with the 4x4.
Yes, I saw that. Pity about the 4x... What's the 4x...
4x1 men.
Yes.
The 4x1 men.
Pity about that. But come again. Uno good. We don't blame nobody. Taking the time and come again. So, Big A, this is how... I'm turning it over to you. This is how we say goodbye for today.
I'm always ready.
I know you are. This is how we say goodbye for today until next week, inshallah. What good? Tell them what I want to hold it. Thank you so much for listening. Hey, sorry. The Kenyan woman. I can't go without saying the Kenyan woman. Thank you, Andrew. The 800, 1,500, 5,000, steeple, all of them. Clean sweep for Kenya. This is how we say goodbye. Thank you so much for listening. We're making way now for the Big A inside of the Sunday Sunshine.
One Uptown TV. Yo, enough there, me I represent.